Imagine visiting your only son's grave, expecting silence only to find a weeping, black waitress holding a child who looks just like him. What she whispers next sends a billionaire mother to her knees, shaking in disbelief. This story will leave your jaw on the floor. So before we begin, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear is filled with heart-wrenching secrets, shocking betrayals, and a truth that will change everything. The cemetery Ian Sue Alland Harrington had it all: private jets, a global fashion empire, and a penthouse that kissed the clouds above Manhattan, but none of it filled the void left after her only son. Daniel died in a tragic car crash 2 years ago. Every Sunday, without fail, Evelyn made the lonely pilgrimage to the private family mausoleum outside Westchester, where her son's grave stood beneath a marble angel. But this particular Sunday was different. As her Rolls-Royce Phantom crept up the gravel road and halted beside the hedges, Evelyn spotted someone new: 2 people kneeling in front of Daniel's headstone. A woman sobbing, a child no older than 4 holding her hand. Evelyn's first thought was anger. Who dares? But as she stepped out of the car in her long black coat and diamond earrings, her heels crunching the gravel like thunder, the woman turned. A young black woman in a worn waitress uniform, her mascara streaked down her cheeks, eyes wide with panic. I'm sorry," she stammered, pulling the child close. Evelyn's heart stopped when she looked into the little boy's face. Eyes, a cleft in his chin, the same dimpled smile Daniel's smile. "Who are you?" Evelyn demanded. The woman stood up slowly, trembling, her voice barely a whisper. "My name is Kenya, and this is Elijah. He's Daniel's son." The words hit Evelyn like a freight train. Her knees buckled. This was impossible. Daniel never mentioned a girlfriend, let alone a child. "You're lying," Evelyn hissed. Kenya shook her head, tears falling. "I tried to reach out, but nobody would listen. I work at a diner downtown. He used to come in every week. We fell in love. But when I got pregnant, he told me your family would never accept us." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "He told you that?" Kenya nodded. "I didn't want to ruin his life. But when I heard he died, I brought Elijah here every year just to say hi to his daddy." The boy tugged at Evelyn's coat. "Are you my grandma?" he asked sweetly. Evelyn's mouth opened, but no words came. The next chapter of her life had just begun, and she wasn't ready for it. Digging into the past after that emotional confrontation, Evelyn returned home with her world flipped upside down. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't eat. Her assistant Natalie watched her with concern as Evelyn sat in the dark with a glass of untouched wine. Finally, Evelyn whispered, "Run a background check on a Kenya Williams. Works at Jackson's Diner." Within hours, Evelyn had her file. No criminal record. College dropout. Former honor student. Single mother. Evelyn was stunned by the humility and strength reflected in the notes. She decided to visit Kenya, not as an enemy, but as a mother desperate for answers. Diner was humble, tucked between a laundromat and a bodega. Kenya was wiping a table when she looked up and froze. Evelyn sat down in a booth. "I want to know everything." Over coffee, Kenya spilled her heart. How Daniel had been her regular. How they used to laugh for hours. How he taught her about jazz and took her to museums. How scared he was of Evelyn's judgment. Evelyn's heart twisted when Kenya pulled out a weathered envelope: Daniel's last letter to her. "He said he wanted to tell you. He just never got the chance." Evelyn opened the letter, her hands shaking. Daniel had written, "Mom may never understand, but if she knew you, if she met Elijah, I think she'd love you both." Evelyn wept. She hadn't just lost a son. She'd lost a chance at knowing his real life. Later that evening, Evelyn invited Kenya and Elijah to her estate. The media went into a frenzy when photos leaked Evelyn Harrington, billionaire, walking hand in hand with a black woman and a child. The headlines were brutal. Billionaire heiress embraces secret grandchild. Socialites whispered. Board members panicked, but Evelyn stood firm. What none of them knew was the storm about to hit Tand. It wouldn't come from the press, but from within her own family. The will, the snake, and the DNA, a private family dinner. Evelyn introduced Elijah to her bitter, scheming brother, Charles, the man who had always wanted Daniel out of the inheritance picture. Now he saw his chance to discredit the boy. "Don't know that child is Daniel's," he spat. "You're being manipulated." Evelyn, ever the strategist, had already anticipated the attack. She pulled out a manila envelope and slid it across the table. Inside was a certified DNA test. A perfect match, 99.9%. Elijah was Daniel's son. Charles turned beet red. But he wasn't done. The next morning, the press leaked a story. Waitress files paternity scam against Harrington family. Kenya's name was dragged through the mud. Paparazzi ambushed her. She lost her job. But Evelyn stood by her, hiring a top lawyer and launching a PR counterstrike. Then came the final twist: Daniel's hidden will. He had left behind a confidential letter, filed secretly with his lawyer just before his death. In it, he named Elijah as his heir. Not just to his trust, but to his stake in the Harrington legacy. Charles was furious. He contested the will, claiming coercion. The courtroom showdown was brutal, televised, and tore open decades of family corruption. But Kenya, poised and articulate, gave a testimony that melted hearts. She spoke not for money, but for recognition of a child's right to know his roots. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears as she stood up and declared, "This is my grandson, and no amount of money will change that." The judge ruled in their favor. Elijah inherited his father's shares. Kenya was cleared. Charles, he was caught embezzling funds, disgraced and disinherited DOHITEN. Months later, the Harrington estate felt different. Laughter echoed again. Elijah ran through the halls, his joyful giggles filling the air. Evelyn watched him with a smile. Kenya beside her, no longer in a waitress uniform, but in a sleek business suit, newly appointed as Director of Community Affairs at the Harrington Foundation. "I never imagined any of this," Kenya whispered. "Neither did I," Evelyn replied, touching her hand gently. "But maybe this was how it was always meant to be." Together, they launched Daniel's Hope, a scholarship fund for single mothers and underprivileged youth. The program swept the nation, drawing praise, admiration, and a new legacy to the Harrington name. What had started as heartbreak had grown into something powerful: healing, truth, and unexpected love. The story became a best-selling book, then a Netflix series. And then just a family legend Elijah would one day tell his own children. At the grave each year, Kenya, Elijah, and Evelyn would sit quietly, a family born from tragedy, standing in unity. As for Evelyn, the billionaire who once thought she had everything, she now realized true wealth wasn't measured in money, but in love, truth, and second chances.